Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to each and every one of you to Dreamforce 2016. This is going to be the best Dreamforce yet. All right, we have an impressive lineup of keynotes, sessions, and lots of fun-filled activities for each and every one of you. We want you to be entertained, engaged, inspired, and we want you to learn a lot. My name is Nick Chan, and in this session, I'll talk about Lightning development experience on the Force.com IDE. I am the lead engineer of platform developer tools at Salesforce. My team is in charge of bringing you the developer console, the real runtime of the Apex debugger, and the Force.com IDE. In this session, which is going to be about 30 minutes, I'm going to tell you about the Lightning development that we have put into the Force.com IDE and how it makes your experience a breeze. Now, a little secret to share with you, the same tools that I'll be showing you are the tools that we are using when we develop Lightning at Salesforce. And yes, we use Lightning at Salesforce internally too. All right, so let's get started. Before we get started, we always have the forward-looking statements at Dreamforce. There's lots of text on the slide. I don't expect you to read all of it. Let me summarize it for you. I'm going to talk about things that are yet to be available. If you're making any purchasing decisions, please base them on things that are already available. All right, with that out of the way, let me get started. So one theme that you realize at Dreamforce each and every year is about Lightning, right? Lightning is a very, very big thing. It is a very great framework. So just a quick question. How many of you, for you, this is your first Dreamforce? Wow, okay. Second Dreamforce? All right. So this is up to my fourth Dreamforce, and I'm enjoying every one of it. But I know there's always new family members coming to Dreamforce, so I'd like to talk a bit about Lightning first to introduce you to it. Lightning is a modern framework for building single-page applications on desktop, mobile, tablet, and watch. This means that the same thing that you built will work seamlessly on all these different devices and render beautifully. So it will work on my mobile phone. It will work on my iWatch, and it will work on my desktop PC there as well. All right? So Lightning is great because it allows great extensibility and reuse through this concept we call component-oriented programming. It highly encourages you to reuse components from your fellow developers. And we're going to take a look at this as I walk you through how I built this app and how you can connect all the components together. Now, what else makes Lightning great? Something else that makes Lightning great that's dear to my heart as a developer is the fact that it's built on open source technologies and industry standards, things that you know and love, such as HTML5, JavaScript, and CSS3. This has two key implications. The first one being that it plays nicely with existing open source libraries. So if you have a favorite JavaScript library, you can go ahead and plug it in and use it with Lightning, and it will work seamlessly. In my demo, we'll see an example of such things. Secondly, it plays nicely with existing tooling support in IDEs. So if you have a favorite tool that already works with JavaScript, you can play with it and plug it into Lightning as well. All right? Also, they mentioned that Lightning is built on top of the open source Aura framework that we released and developed at Salesforce. So Lightning itself is already open source and standing on those shoulders of those giants. All right, I want to talk a bit about tooling support since I'm from the platform dev tools. So in 2014, when Lightning was first introduced, we gave you the developer console that let you work on Lightning very, very easily in your org. All you have to do is open up your org, click a button, usually at the top right corner of your browser, and up pops the developer console. Right? You'll see the developer console inside the demos today, inside the keynotes as well. Now, throughout the years, our tooling partners have really contributed to the SIG ecosystem for Lightning. So tooling partners like Maven's Mate, Illuminated Cloud, Cloud9, and Welkin Suite, they've added tons of tools that help you develop on Lightning as well. In fact, many of them are doing presentations today. So Maven's Mate was just talking about 10 o'clock over the Innovation Theater about how they're supporting Visual Studio Code. Illuminated Cloud is going to give a presentation at 5 o'clock today. Cloud9, I'm not sure whether they're here today, but I know Welkin Suite has a booth and a presentation, and they're going to do a presentation over there at 2 o'clock at the Lightning Theater. Now in 2016, our team has also introduced support for Lightning in the Force.com IDE. So right now, you have a very rich ecosystem from which you can choose all the tools that you want to use from. All right? So you may be asking, are these tools in competition with one another? I'll not think of it that way. I would like to say they provide a very healthy ecosystem for you because each one has its own strengths and each one has its own sort of idiosyncrasies. So for instance, if you're an Eclipse user, you will probably be more effective when you're using the Eclipse IDE. If you've grown up on IntelliJ, you'll be more sort of comfortable using Illuminated Cloud. Right? It's the same analogy if you're using a mobile device. If I give you a mobile device, you're probably going to be effective at it. But if you're an iOS user, you're probably more effective on an iOS device than versus an Android device. That's the thing that I want to convey here with the tooling support that we have for Lightning. Now that being said, I do hope that after this presentation, you go ahead and download the Force.com IDE. Version 37 that we just released 3 weeks ago has support and official support for Lightning. There are many, many more features in it. There are powerful features to help you develop Lightning. I'm just going to show and share with you my top 5. And number 5 is the multi-page editor that neatly handles all files in your Lightning bundle. All right, we'll give a demo of this. And then there's a documentation browser that makes documentation available at your fingertips. Then we have the outline view and the open dialog that helps you quickly navigate between your files. And you have a chance to see how impressive it is later on during the demo. And I'll show you the integration with existing tools. Remember what I said earlier about Lightning being very open source friendly and tooling friendly? We'll see how this actually comes to play. And last but not least, my personal favorite, the smart completion for your components. And we'll get to see how this goes. There are many, many more features that I won't be able to cover during my presentation, but I urge you to download the Force.com IDE and try this out for yourself. Now, it's easy for me to go ahead and just talk about all these features, but I think it would be really nice to give you sort of a walkthrough of how a developer will use the Force.com IDE to build an app. And the app that I'll be talking about is this face detection app. Now, at Dreamforce this year, a very big theme is the theme of AI, right? Einstein is something that we are making a product out of, and you see here in my presentation that I'm going to sort of incorporate parts of this. So I have a face detection app, and basically it's an app that allows you, when you go to an event such as Dreamforce and you're taking a lot of photos with people that you've just met, it can automatically detect the face, put a square around it, and then let you click and create a contact for you. All right, so let me go over to my machine now and give you a demonstration of this app. So this is the UI for it. It's very minimalistic. It's very simple. I just want you to focus on the functionality because we're going to be building this in the next few minutes. So I can come over here, and the way you use this is you drag and drop your image here. And in just a few seconds, it displays here. But it doesn't just display it here. In addition to this, it shows you, and it crops this thing here. So I know this is Nathan Williams. And Nathan works at Salesforce. And I can double-click on this, and it crops his face here and creates the contact for me. All right? Miss Jane Smith works at Salesforce too. I can go ahead, double-click on this, and you have your face cropped out there. So this is the app that we'll be building through Lightning. All right? So I'm going to switch back over to my slides first. And before we dwell into the code, I'll just give you a walkthrough of how an app such as this is architectured. I think it'll be really instructive to do this because most people may be new to Lightning, and you'll get an idea of how you'd architecture an app in Lightning itself. So this is the face detection app. And one thing you realize about Lightning is that it's really component-oriented. So you have a component for the, you have a component here for the drop zone, and this is where I dragged and dropped my photo earlier. Then you have a component for the contact list, which is where things will show up. So far, we have 2 components. Now, when I drag and drop my photo onto that drop zone, the first thing that it does is that it broadcasts an event. An event is a very important concept in Lightning. To draw an analogy, if you're on Twitter and you write a tweet, you're actually broadcasting an event so all your followers can actually participate in it. And this is the analogy here with an event in the Lightning system. To contrast this with typical object-oriented style programming, what you do is you probably call a function. But the problem with calling a function is that it tightly couples it. So for instance, if I were to say and target this audience right here in the front here and say, hey, I have an event for you, and say you're the only one who can participate in it, this does not allow you to have this very rich ecosystem with Lightning where you can plug and play different components together. All right? So this is the event-based thing, and we'll see the advantage of this at the end of our demo. Now, once you've done this and broadcast it, your photo shows up. And this is the other component that you have. Then when I hover over my mouse with this, the hello component comes out. And when I activate it by double-clicking, it also broadcasts a different event. And this event will populate and create a new contact for you. All right? This is it at a very, very high level. Let's dwell into code, and we'll see how this works. So I'm switching over here to the Force.com IDE, and it's Eclipse-based IDE. And for those of you who are new to Eclipse, you have the Package Explorer here on the top left corner. And basically, this lets you see all the different files that you have. So the way you develop this, if you have not developed with an IDE before, is that you have an org, and you're siphoning all the metadata into this machine right here. So if I expand this, you see they have Aura. Remember what I told you about the open source component that actually powers Lightning underneath? This is where Aura comes into play. And if I expand this right now, you see they have lots and lots of components. This is what I mean by component-oriented programming. Now, this may seem like a lot of components to you, but don't worry about it. One of the things we want you to do with Lightning is to embrace the number of components that you actually have. The tooling should make it easy for you to work with all these different components. And that's a good segue for me to talk about the first component right now. So if I were to go over here and expand this, you see that I have contacts. I have contact created event, contact zone, drop zone, face detected event, lots and lots of components and lots of files. Right? The first feature we have is that if you come here and just double-click on this, it opens up in your editor. And notice that at the bottom here, you have these mini tabs at the bottom. This is what we call the multi-page tab editor view. It makes it really easy for you to neatly work with your bundles. So for instance, if I didn't have this, when I click on each of this, it will open a separate tab, right? But right now, when I click on each of it, it opens this thing at the bottom. So you don't have a proliferation of tabs going on in your screen. And this really helps when you have a very small screen or when you're doing a demo. So this is the first feature. My second favorite feature is, of course, the outline view that we have. So right now you have your component. I can come here and type in outline, click here, and you have an outline view. And this outline view is really smart because when you click on this thing, it jumps you to the right position in the right file in your component. So if I come over here and handle drop over, it actually brings me to this function in my JavaScript file. And here it brings me to the handle drop. Of course, this one brings me to the after render. So very quick and nifty navigation that you can use. All right. You may be thinking, this is a very small screen, and if I were to open the outline view every time, it's taking up precious screen estate on the right-hand side of my screen. So what I can do instead is close this, and then I can hit Command-O and bring in this inline outline view thing. And here, you can use your arrow keys to navigate quickly between each one and come here. And of course, if I bring this up again, if I type something, there's live filtering that's going on. So this is really, really easy for you to work with all your Lightning components. So that's one thing that helps you navigate. Now, this helps you navigate within the bundle itself. But what are you going to do with all your different components? You'll notice in the past few minutes, what I've been doing is using my mouse and clicking on each one, right? Now, instead of clicking on each one, I can use this feature here, which is the open dialog. And if I bring this up, I can quickly just type things like face hello, and it will open up my component for me. I can repeat the same process with face detection. It will go ahead and open that for me as well. So if you're familiar with Eclipse and its Java-based tools, this is really, really similar. It's a very fast and seamless way for you to navigate between all your different components. All right, so now I'm going to close all of this and open up the drop zone again. So my favorite feature is, of course, the built-in documentation. So prior to the Force.com IDE, when you're developing, something that's very, very common is to open your Force.com IDE like this with a browser to the right-hand side of the screen so you can browse your documentation, right? So you come here, you're coding and stuff like that. Well, you don't have to do that anymore today because if you come over here and put your mouse over here, you get tooltips that shows you the documentation right there in the IDE. So this is really, really handy. You don't have to move between IDE and browser. And of course, if you want something more persistent, you can bring up the lightning dot view. And right here at the bottom, so that if I click on something, the documentation is now persisted down there. So this, I think, you enjoy. You'll find it really, really easy to start developing with Lightning. Now, before I go on further, I would actually like to build the app that I show you, right? So I'm going to show you how I'm going to build this. I'm going to use a wizard here. Go to New. I'll choose Lightning Bundle. And I'll call this face detection app. And I'll go in and say a Lightning application. Now, some of you may be new to Lightning and you're wondering, wow, there's lots of stuff going on down here, right? Why do I have a Lightning application, a Lightning component, Lightning event, Lightning interface, Lightning tokens? These are all the different bundle types that you have. I won't have enough time in this presentation to cover it, but fear not, you're at Dreamforce. There's lots of sessions you can talk to, you can go to. There's the developer forest. Go up there, pick up the documentation, and learn. Of course, we have lots of Trailheads modules to help you get started with this. So I'm just going to pick a Lightning application, click Finish, and at this point, we have it right here in the face detection app. All right, so this is a skeleton code to just get you started. I'm going to bring in something simple right now. Put this here just to show you and get you started on stuff. So there's lots of code. The purpose of this presentation is not for you to read all the code. I just want you to take away from this is the features that we have in the IDE. So all this sets up, and the easiest way to do this is to say force.com save to server, and this will save it over to the server for me so we can do live development and see how things are actually working. So I've just saved it over to my server. We can go over here, click on this, and browse this, right? So this is loaded, and you notice here that it still doesn't have many of the components. All it has is the header on top, right? I'm just setting the ground for this. I'm going to add the components one by one. So going back to my Eclipse IDE, the first integration of existing tooling that I want to show you is the templating system. If I go over to Preferences right now, I'm going to zoom in this so you guys can see this. I can actually define my own custom templates. So I have some for df header, df left column, df right column, and we'll get to see how these templates come to play. But you can always come here and define your own. So I can say demo, and I can say h1. I can insert a variable if I want, put my cursor there, right? So I can save this, and there you have a template that you can reuse. So right now with this template, I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to create this component. So I'm going to use df header. Here we go. So we have this thing right here. And right now, you can see that I actually have auto-completion, not just with HTML, but also it's Aura away. So I can come here and say C, and this will be my drop zone. It goes ahead and fills this for me, right? I can save this, and you notice that it's sort of misaligned. I don't have to come in here and use my mouse to do it. I can just right-click and say Beautify down here, and it will format my source code for me. Right, with this, I go ahead and say force.com, save to server again. It's going to save over to the server. And now, when I refresh this, we have the drop zone, right? There you go. So this is how we're developing stuff. We are plugging and plugging lots of components together. Now, if I drop my image here, you notice in a few seconds, nothing is happening yet. That's because the component that's supposed to react to the drag and drop is not in place yet. So let's put that component in. So coming over here, I'm going to use df left column, and we have this. And again, I can use auto-completion. Put this in here, and then I'll just add df right column. Use my auto-completion and say contact zone. Beautify this. Save. And now I can go over and say save to server. So it's saving over to the server right now. I'm going to refresh this page. Do a hard refresh. Make sure that thing is loaded. Drag and drop things here. A few seconds, it pops up. I have hover over here. I have my hello. I can type in Mr. Nathan Williams' name. Double click on this, and nothing's happening. Nothing's happening because I've deliberately left out one of the components and the functionality in the component itself. So let's go there and see that component. So coming over here, I'm going to make use of my fast navigation. In face hello, what's going to happen is that in the controller, if I come here and use the create contact, you notice that I've deliberately commented out code. And the reason for this is I want to type this live in front of you to give you an idea of how the auto-completion actually works for JavaScript. So if I come here and just say where are name inputs, Notice I can hit Control Space. It gives me suggestions here. Come here. I can do find. It gives me this. And not only does it give me this, it gives me suggestion as well. So I can go ahead and say face name, get v.value, and I'll do a split. You notice that it's aware of not only Lightning stuff, Lightning function, it knows about standard JavaScript functions like split. So I can come here, and in this case, I'm going to use, oops, I made a mistake. I don't want splice, I actually want split. So come here, my pattern is this. I don't have a limit for it, so I'm going to remove this and hit comma. And of course, if I put my mouse over here, you notice that I have the same tooltips for JavaScript as well. So again, minimizing the number of things that you have to open just to get the tooltips. If I go here, I can type in first name equals name inputs, and I can do Control 0. Last name account name. All right, there we go. And last but not least, face data. And you notice with face data, I'm going to use the helper. And when I do this, it's going to suggest functions in my helper component. So I'm going to say crop face and component here. The interesting thing about this is that crop face is defined in a different file. And if I hold down command right here, it turns into this little click that I can go. It will jump me to the definition of the file. So you have really rich navigation within the IDE, very similar to how you have with different frameworks. So I'm going to go back here, and instead of typing out of this, I'm just going to comment this code out. So that's one feature. Now I have another one, which is my contact list. So I have to come over here and play with that as well. So coming over here, you see that I've commented out code here. In fact, I'm going to zoom in so that people can see this. Auto-completion works really, really well here. So if I come in and type aura attribute, I can hit this. I can say contact ID. And if I come into type and hit Control Space, it gives me the different types as well. So I know this is a string. And I'm not going to give it a description. Now I can continue with the other 4 types. But here I want to show you something nifty that's built in, not really built into Eclipse, but from a separate plugin. So remember what I said earlier about being able to interface with the tools that you know and love? Well, one such tool is Emmet. And the first time I saw this was when someone demoed it to me. I thought, this is really, really cool. Because I can just type this. And if you forgive me for the rather weird syntax right now, many things will become clear in a bit. If I just type this and hit this right here, when I hit tab, something magical is going to happen. It's going to autocomplete this and make my coding a breeze. So now I can go in and say first name, come over here, enter this, and it automatically terminates it for me. I can do last name, account name, and face data. Right? So at this point, everything is complete. I'm just going to go ahead and save this, and things should be working. So I go to force.com, save to server. Now instead of waiting for this to load, I'm going to switch back to my original one, where you have the face detection app. Come over here, drag and drop it. And there you go. You've built an app from scratch to finish using Lightning, and that was really a breeze. All right, so that's it for if you're a developer, right? But people who are using Lightning, they could include your admins as well. What do we have there for admins? If you switch over here, there's an app called the Lightning App Builder. I'm just going to show you that you can use the same things over here. So I'm navigating to Lightning App Builder, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new Lightning page. All right, and there's a new Lightning page wizard. I'm going to create an app page, click next. I'm going to follow the same layout that I have earlier with a header and 2 columns. So I go ahead and click next. I'll call this face detection and finish. Now if you come here, you notice that there's this thing. You can see when I was saying that Lightning works seamlessly on your mobile phone, on your desktop. You can come here and try all the different things. So on phone, it does this fluid layout, dynamic layout. If you go back to desktop, it slides over here. What I want to draw your attention to is at the left-hand side of the screen, where you have all your different components that we just developed. You can now drag and drop them. So drop zone, we know, comes over here. Contact zone comes over here. image analyzer comes over here. This is how you have this symbiotic relationship with your admins or anyone else who wants to use your components. Write the components in the Force.com IDE, publish them, and then anyone else can use it by drag and drop. So I'm going to save this right now, and I'm going to activate it for people. All right, I want to change the icon because I really like this leaf icon right here. And then I'm going to turn it on and add page to the app. So I'm going to drag this up here, hit save. And at this point, it's ready. So if I come back here to my org, go over to sales, look at this. This is my face detection app. Click on this. Notice that it's rendering right inside Salesforce 1 right now. If I drag and drop this, double click on it, it works inside here as well. So this is the whole Lightning experience, how you work as a developer with the Force.com IDE and bring it so that your admins can use the components that you built. All right, so I'm going to move over to my slides now, and I'll summarize by giving you my top 5 features Redux. Right, and number 5 is the multi-page editor. You see how Lightning relies on a lot of different components and a lot of files inside the components. The multi-page editor makes it a breeze for you to work with all those different files without cluttering your IDE. Then at number 4, we have our documentation browser. You can hover over markup, hover over JavaScript files, and it will show you tooltips. You can have the dedicated view at the bottom there. And Cody the bear is our mascot for anything that involves code. You can see that he approves of this. Then number 3, we have the quick navigation with the outline view. I'm showing the inline outline view they have there. And of course, you have the open dialog that helps you quickly navigate between all your different components. Then number 2, the integration with existing tools. We can see that we can use templates, and you can define your own very, very easily and make use of it to make it easier to code sort of boilerplate code. And number 1, I show Emmet. Using the syntax there, you get a lot of way to actually type stuff without writing too much code. And of course, at number 1, my personal favorite is the auto-completion. I've shown you how it works with your markup over there. It works in JavaScript. And what I didn't show you, and you can do this as a homework assignment, is auto-completion works in CSS as well. Right? So if you go in there, it understands CSS, it will give you this completion. So we have the full range of auto-completion, full range of code navigation. This is a very smart IDE, and it's going to make your life developing in Lightning much, much simpler. OK, so what's next? Are we done with this? Far from it. This is just the tip of the iceberg. We're going to be continuously developing this. And the next thing on our roadmap is to have ESLint support. So you know when you're developing with JavaScript, one of the annoying things about JavaScript is that it's a very, very weakly typed language. If you make a very simple mistake, you have to wait until runtime to actually detect it. ESLint will help you fix those. And then we're going to have integration with Salesforce Lightning Development Design System. So that's the sort of layout that you saw, where I have my components and they look and feel like Salesforce components. This is because I use the Salesforce Lightning Design System. Then we're going to have quick fix support, Lightning test support in Spring 17. And we're going to make this open source as well soon. All right, so none of this will be possible without the hard work of people on my team. But in particular, I'd like to call out 2 people, Nick and Min, who are actually here in the crowd with us. Please come on stage. Nick and Min spearheaded this effort internally at Salesforce. They were the one who started this. And they were kind enough to help me so that we can bundle this in the Force.com IDE. So I brought them on stage because I want you to recognize them, and also because I want you to see their faces. They are here today at Dreamforce. It's a very special treat because they're usually working at the Raleigh, North Carolina office. They're here the whole week at Dreamforce, and they're going to be over there at our Salesforce DX booth. It's the first booth by the entrance. Come by, talk to us. We'd like to hear what features you'd like to see, what bugs you've encountered, and we'll fix them for you. All right? And also, you may notice that the booth is not called the Lightning booth. It's called the Salesforce DX booth. That's because we're going to give you a sneak peek at the next version of the Force.com IDE and how it fits into our next product, which is the Salesforce DX. So please stop by. We'll be happy to talk to you. And of course, my contact information and our product manager's contact information is down there. You can tweet us and let us know what you like or what features you want to see in the Force.com IDE. And with that, Thank you very much. I hope to see each and every one of you at Troet DX next year and Dreamforce 17 as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to come over here and talk to us. If not, I'll be at the booth at Salesforce DX there. Feel free to come to talk to us there as well. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your Dreamforce.